Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Pelletier, and this is the fifth edition of the Unvarnished Truth. I'm a lawyer and author residing in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee, and I speak on topics of the day from a conservative perspective. I pull no punches, and as I say, this is the Unvarnished Truth. Today is topic number 5. And today we'll be talking about nuclear power. I don't think this one will be a terribly long one, as some of the earlier uh, editions of this series have been on broader topics. But let me just say that, for some time I've been quite puzzled. I'm a climate change skeptic. I acknowledge that. A lot of aspects of the climate change debate have puzzled me. Initially it was called global warming because the globe was warming up in theory. But then we started to get cold winters, coming back, uncommonly cold winters, and then there was no appreciable warming of the average temperature on the Earth for about 15 years, from the mid 90s to 2010 or thereabouts. And the title of the malady which afflicts the Earth was changed from global warming to climate change. The theory now being that greenhouse gas was producing more volatile weather, worse hurricanes, worse tornadoes. But, that's not clear. This Hurricane Matthew, which just struck North Carolina, well, it struck the entire eastern seaboard and Haiti and flooding in interior Carolina, is the first hurricane, I think, to hit the eastern seaboard in 11 years or thereabouts. So, I just don't get the whole thing. I would say this. I would say two things. Whoever the next president is, I guess I would say three things. Whoever the next president is should appoint a commission, a bipartisan commission of scientists to really study the situation and report within a year, and tell us whether we really have a problem caused by so-called greenhouse gas emissions, carbon fuel emissions. I'm very until we know what the problem is, why should we do anything about it? Second thing I would say is solving the problem is going to be tremendously, if there is a problem, and switching to greenhouse gas. Switching to non-carbon based emissions, non-petroleum fuel, if you will. Solar power and windmills is going to be tremendously expensive and not terribly efficient. The United States of America can't run on windmills and sun power. Our energy demands are vast, and we just can't run on something as silly as a windmill. And it's silly to me. Third, I'm a little suspicious that a transfer that liberal politicians have that they're greasing the wheel for themselves. Not to name names, but I'm just worried that liberal politicians have their sights set on alternative fuels because they've invested in alternative fuels and want to see the stocks in those companies rise and want to make a fortune. While the rest of us, will incur enormous subsidies and debt to get these industries off the ground. We can't add to the national debt. The national debt is already $19.7 trillion. I think when I did my national debt thing, I said 19.5, the first one, a couple of weeks ago. I said 19.5 trillion, and just in a couple of weeks, it's grown to 19.7 trillion. And I checked it last week. Maybe by now it's 19.8 trillion. We're approaching $20 trillion in debt. Obamacare is going to kill us. We know that. The subsidies to enable poor people to buy health insurance policies are really going to explode in the next several years. And there's talk if Hillary Clinton takes over, we're going to go to a single-payer national health care system like Canada or the United Kingdom. What are we doing? We can't afford national health insurance. We can't afford alternative energy solutions until we get our debt and deficit in order. Now, having said all that and all my skepticism, as I say, I think that we could easily appoint a commission to really study whether we have a problem. But we have a solution in hand. Nuclear power. We uncovered a wartime use of nuclear power in the Manhattan Project during World War II. I mean, a phenomenal scientific achievement. To go from Einstein's letter in 1939 to FDR that we should try to develop a nuclear bomb, to the actual explosion of a test device in July of 1945 was a miraculous scientific achievement. And now we have, we've used that bomb twice, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and subsequently we've developed even more powerful weapons based on fusion technology. The atomic bombs based on fission technology, the hydrogen bombs based on fusion technology, the same technology that powers the sun and the formation of the stars in the universe. Why don't we solve our energy problem by proliferating nuclear power plants? They emit no greenhouse gases. I mean, it solves our problem. We will have abundant electrical energy to power everything imaginable in the country except our cars and trucks. I don't think cars can be built to carry nuclear reactors in each automobile, but we can certainly power all of our electrical requirements with nuclear power. For those who are, and it would be nice, we've done nothing with nuclear power except build missiles and bombs and submarines and airplanes that consume vast amounts of money on an annual basis that we can't use. And I'm not suggesting that we use them. I'm just suggesting that nuclear power is the greatest source of energy we've ever discovered. It's the source of energy that powers the universe, and we've not put it to peaceful use. We have some nuclear power plants, but not enough. The entire country should be run on nuclear power. And consider the benefits. No greenhouse gas emissions, no CO2 emissions whatsoever from a nuclear power plant. And consider the tremendous benefits if we began, the proliferation of nuclear power, the benefits in industry to contractors to build these plants, to the operators who operate them, to the high-paying jobs for contractors, operators, engineers to build them. The effect on education in this country, we'd stop graduating massage therapists and start graduating nuclear power engineers. The effect on this country would be phenomenal. And if you throw in high-speed train service between major urban centers, the Eastern Corridor from Boston to Washington, D.C., Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, St. Louis, or you name it. Seattle, Tacoma, take your picks of what cities you might want to connect with high-speed rail service. And I'm talking about magnetic levitation trains. These were designed in Germany, 10, 15 years ago. These trains go 400 plus miles per hour. Our Acela service, our quote-unquote high-speed train on the Eastern Corridor, the Amtrak Acela, the train goes 115 miles an hour. Now, maybe it can go faster. It's the tracks and the curves that limit its speed. But the fact of the matter is, it's old technology, magnetic levitation. And again, consider the impact on jobs, on education. If we had, a whole cadre throughout the country of high-speed magnetic levitation engineers, I mean, it could just be a phenomenal employment, GDP boom, not to mention the great efficiencies that would occur because you can have train service from downtown to downtown. It could be underground, downtown to downtown, saving vast amounts of transportation time to and from airports and all of that dead time, waiting in lines and all that stuff. Just rocket from one downtown to another at 400 miles an hour using magnetic levitation. So that's my pitch for today. Really, I mean, that's it. I just think that it's time for us to move in an entirely different direction. And let me just add one final thought. I was looking at my notes here. Nuclear power, magnetic levitation, and space exploration. We've got to get back on the beam. It is horrifying to me that the International Space Station is largely manned by Russian and Chinese scientists. We have to hitch rides there with, on Russian rockets. It is embarrassing. We are the world's technological leader, the greatest power on Earth, and we're hitching rides from the Russians to an International Space Station largely manned by Russian and Chinese astronauts. We got to get back on the stick and start, I would hope that we would get serious about this mission to Mars and start building with a series of launches from Earth, start building an enormous complex on the moon that we could use as a launching pad to start exploring our solar system, manned explorations of our solar system and hopefully beyond. So those are the three areas that I want to touch on. And can you imagine the benefits there of employment and education? If we had, thousands and thousands and millions of engineers building nuclear power plants, building magnetic levitation trains, and involved in a rejuvenated NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, rocketing to the stars. And this is the 5th edition of The Unvarnished Truth. This is Mike Pelletier signing off from my home in East Tennessee. Have a good day.